Welcome to our Line of Opinion panelists. For the second week in a row, we're joined in studio by UNM law professor and president of the housing assistance nonprofit Amparo. That would be Serge Martinez. Tom Grover is here. He's an attorney and former Albuquerque police sergeant. And across the table, we're pleased to have Lan Cena, again, policy director of the Center for Civic Policy and a former Albuquerque city councilor, of course. Thank you all for being here. Since their first season in 2018, New Mexico United has captured the attention of soccer lovers and sports fans across the state, certainly. That fervor has its limits, however. In 2021, voters rejected a bond that would have funded a new soccer stadium for the team and delivered a major blow to an economic initiative that Mr. Keller was pushing. In our recent discussion with the mayor, he said plans for a new stadium are shifting to Balloon Fiesta Park, and the city would not be the majority investor in that stadium. Now, let me start with you. What happens next is up to the soccer club. All this to ask, should the mayor get his hopes up on a new stadium funded by United? Would the economic benefit be worth the potential headaches of interrupting Balloon Fiesta Park? I mean, there's some joking about high-powered lines there that the balloon people are going to have to deal with. What's your initial reaction to this? Should the mayor be the face of this? Is probably my inside question here.
I mean, look, I'm a big fan, Somos Unidos.
Sure.
But I think stadiums are almost never a good deal economically for the cities that they're in, right? Especially if the city ends up paying for it, right? There's all this talk about generating income and whatnot, but that's money that the people who live here would just have spent on something else. It's not new. People aren't going to be flocking from out of state to come watch United games, although much as I wish that were different, right? And I think any sort of, situation that has the city investing heavily in a stadium that's going to be used not that often, not that regularly, and is not going to bring, the benefits that frequently get touted, is a mistake. Like, more power to United. Build a stadium. That's great. Build it yourself, and don't make the city pay for it.
Yeah. Tom, interestingly, the play all along has been this retail attached to it. Certainly, the developers want to get in on that and kind of make some money outside these 17 home games a year, which are not going to really do much for economic development here. But I ask again, is the mayor too much in front of this issue as the face of it? I mean, we think back to the time he stood on that pickup truck bed announcing this whole kickoff. Didn't work out. Is he stuck with this now? Is this his folly?
Yeah, it's a trophy project that he wants to be able to look back on and say, I brought this soccer stadium to Albuquerque, and as Serge said, most of the time it sits there empty. I mean, the reality is if he approached the housing issue with such a public-private partnership momentum that he's putting in for the soccer stadium, maybe he'd have something that would be more reflective of an accomplishment rather than an empty stadium.
Good point there. Councilor, one of the city's next big projects, is the rail trail. It came up a lot, certainly during the speech. A 7-mile loop, in case folks don't know, that would connect nearby neighborhoods. Mr. Keller says the city has secured funding for 4 of the 8 phases. There's a lot of phases here. Work beginning this year. This idea has been around for a while. I'm curious, is the mayor again putting too much into this as a fix for our economic development here?
Well, I think it's just another shiny thing to go after. I think a lot of our communities have mixed reactions to it in terms of, what are the needs and things that the community actually want. And right now, because we're facing so many of these issues of access to housing, access to food, and more things relating to education, then I think it's kind of a mixed issue. Is this that thing that communities are asking for? Or, as the stadium issue too, when I was on council, the top concern that so many of my constituents and community members were voicing was like, look, we're facing so many of these issues. Let's think and reinvest into these areas. Let's invest into our youth and our communities and things that can really help our communities thrive, whether it's accessible transit throughout the entire city, not just downtown and surrounding areas. So, we have much of the west side that, again, lacks so much of these infrastructures, access to public transit. I think bolstering a lot of that is what community has been asking for.
Yeah. One more rail trail here. In terms of economic development, some hope that the rail trail could put the city in more of a leadership role for taking care of the Bosque and the Rio Grande. Is that a reasonable goal if this project goes through?
I have to say I'm not really sure that I can speak confidently on that, right? I think, obviously if more people are spending time on the trail and going through the Bosque down by the river, that would, I think it is criminal how in how little we take advantage of that river right here and the Bosque as as a community. Every time I'm down there, I'm like, why are there? I'm delighted that there's not more crowds, but I'm wondering why there's not more crowds down there. So anything that would do that would be great. And I think this initiative sounds cool. But it is a question I think of also, how does this fit with the other priorities that are facing the city?
And all those phases too, 8 phases is going to take a long time. Yeah. And he clearly made the point after he's gone, someone's going to have to pick that up. Tom, another stadium has been in the headlines after the city inspector general found Albuquerque's Parks and Rec department used taxpayer dollars for the Gladiators Stadium and Turf project in Rio Rancho. And when our guy Lou asked Mr. Keller blamed the pandemic, saying Tingley Coliseum became a vaccine facility, and that's, blah, blah, blah. That's why that happened. Any sense of any wrongdoing here? Or, his answer made some sense. There was a move, out of Tingley. They're going to play up there. It's not permanent. But the Inspector General had a different opinion about it.
I think the mayor misrepresented the facts. I mean, the Gladiators' last game at Tingley was in 2019, before the pandemic. And the appropriations went to the legislature in 2021.
Right.
So, his representation that this was a consequence of the pandemic is not accurate at all.
What do you make of the city's lawyers say the Inspector General had no right to issue a report, saying they lacked the legal credentials to give an opinion on the matter?
I think it's pretty clear this administration is totally phobic to any transparency and any, whether it's internal review or external review, and for them to attack their own IG. And someone who is incredibly well qualified is a disservice to the IG.
That one took me by surprise as well. Tom, kick us off on this one. I would get opinions from the entire table on this. The mayor mentioned the city has a contract, we'll talk about that in quotes, to expand high-speed fiber to every home in Albuquerque. Just got to breathe that in for a second. High-speed fiber to every home in Albuquerque, when you're talking it's $500,000 a mile to drag fiber somewhere. What did you make of that proposal?
I think it's overreach, and it's something that we've heard from various city councilors and various administrations over at least the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. We're probably in a better position to enjoy something from Starlink with Elon Musk's company rather than realizing fiber optics locally.
Right. Hopefully better connection than that DeSantis thing they tried yesterday, that's for sure. That was pretty funny. Your ex-district, a lot of those folks could use high-speed fiber to the home. Maybe not a bad idea for certain parts of the city.
Right, but again, it's like the west side and much of the west side, and just the growth and how much it's expanded. Mm-hmm. The fastest rate I can get at my home on the west side is 44 megabytes per, which I'm sure folks will be reaching out and giving me some quotes, but that's the fastest I can access. And when it comes to the pandemic, really highlighted the inequities of access to the internet, and more importantly, the information. So I think that the need has always been there. And this is something that we've been talking about through our state and as a nation, and actually getting federal funds to build out some of this infrastructure. The need is there and has always been there. However, I think that, again, we have to think through for the whole city, and not just certain parts of the city, such as central downtown, right? And so I think for surrounding areas and communities, it's something that we've been asking for quite some time, especially myself. But it will be, seen.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, it's like the everlasting gobstopper of Albuquerque, this idea of getting connectivity to every home. Mm-hmm. But no one ever talks about how much it's going to cost, what the monthly fee is going to be, if there's going to be a break for low-income people. Right. I mean, nobody talks about these details. Right. Does it seem, in your gut, does it seem viable, doing something like this?
Well, it sounds challenging, and everything that comes with it. I will say it'd be easier if we had a more density-focused city. But I will also say this is another one of those things that, fiber optics may not be the answer, but we have to think of connectivity like plumbing, like electricity, right? It's no longer this sort of add-on or luxury that
what you're saying is someone in the government has to run it. If that's going to be that way, someone needs to make a profit the other way.
Right. So there may that may be the answer, right? Or some sort of visionary approach to it that doesn't involve let's hope the private sector can solve this once again. But I do think, I applaud this continued recognition and desire to make this a reality, because it's no longer optional to participate in American and global society.
This is not a new idea. You recall then City Councilor Eric Griegos wanted to have wireless to every home in the city and had a company lined up. They said they could do it, but then they figured out they couldn't do it. It's very hard to get connectivity around here. It's not an easy thing. Not a bad goal, but should our expectations be just reconfigured here, perhaps?
I think they need to, yeah, I think they need to modify the expectations and talk about implementing it in installments.
Right.
You know, and focusing on those areas of the city that are in most need versus, you know, the Northeast Heights or the far Northwest or things like that.
Because that's always how it goes. It rolls out for those folks first because they can afford it, and you build up that income, and then you start thinking about folks, how you flip that to difficulty. Thank you guys so much. What a great panel. We'll be back here in the table in less than 20 minutes for one final discussion about our interview with Mayor Keller.